Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode webinar series of the Power of Sourcing 2025. And I'm delighted to introduce our speaker very, very soon, Anastasia. I'm not going to go and try to butcher her last name, but Anastasia is the Director of Talent Acquisition at Remote. And she has extensive experience of building and scaling global teams, especially as a fully remote company. But before we go into the nitty and gritty, what it's like to build a global team, let me tell you shortly what Matcher does. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Matcher. And what we do with Matcher is we provide embedded RPO solutions to companies like TikTok, Booking, Stripe, Action, and Heineken, where our recruiters, sources, and coordinators work fully embedded into our clients' teams to stay flexible, to bring expertise, and help them scale with the level that they need. Now, if you are looking to hire quickly, or if you're looking for additional recruitment, sourcing, or coordination support, please let us know. We would love to get in touch with you. And we are actively hiring. And as a fully remote company, we hire in different time zones as well. We're hiring senior talent partners, we're hiring senior tech talent partners, and ladies and gentlemen, we are hiring senior sourcers as well. So check out our roles on our website. We would love to get in touch with you. One last thing before I introduce Anastasia, I really want to acknowledge Remote as a company, because Remote is our partner for many of the different events that we host, including this webinar series. What Remote does, it's an all-in global HR platform that enables companies to build and manage global teams. Remote includes global payroll for direct employee payments, employer record, EOR, services for international expansion without the need for local legal entities, and hiring support through Remote Talent. Remote also provides rapid onboarding and payment for international freelancers, as well as managing the entire HR lifecycle with their HRIS system. And I know I was there at the very start. I spoke to the founder, Job van der Voort, when they just started, probably a few weeks before COVID started. And it's been absolutely incredible to watch the super rapid growth of Remote as a fully remote company. And I've actually learned quite a bit of things of being a remote first company as well on how to do that successfully. So I'm more than honored and happy to welcome on stage Anastasia. Hey, Anastasia.
Hello, great introduction. I definitely need to steal your spiel and pitch of Remote. I love that. And hi, Adrian, and thanks for having me here.
Hey, Anastasia, I happen to know you just came back from working remotely from Thailand, right?
Yeah, maybe you can tell that, but really enjoyed my experience. So I'm back to Amsterdam, and now I would say that I have enough energy accumulated to enjoy the beauty of the rainy weather here.
Yeah, exactly. From beautiful beaches probably and sun and like tropical climate to back to Amsterdam. But yeah, that's really the power of working remotely, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, honestly, we've known each other for several years now, and I'm so happy that you can share a little bit more, because Remote truly is a company I admire and often go to understand, like, hey, how can we create a strong culture working fully remotely? How do you find talent and how that all works? So I'm really excited, also from a personal perspective, to hear what you have to share with us. So the stage is yours, Anastasia.
Thank you, and excited to be here. So I think we can start. So first of all, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our episode today. And the main topic of my today's presentation is how you can build strategies that can help you hire and attract talent in a all remote and global setting. So I wanted to start this presentation with sharing a little bit about myself. So as far as you already know, my name is Anastasia, and I lead the talent acquisition team here at Remote. I would say that when I look back at my career journey within the recruiting space. I spent my entire career within the tech world, truly enjoying it and believing in technology and the ways it's changing people's lives and bringing innovation and delight to our day-to-day basis. And I would say that when it comes to my career journey, I've been steadily moving away from a corporate environment towards the world of tech startups. So remote is my third unicorn. Before that, I spent some time at GitLab, the largest all remote company before the pandemic hit. I also spent some very interesting time at Uber, and you can definitely see the rest of the companies on my LinkedIn profile. I would say that when it comes to today's conversation that we are going to have, I think that the experience that I'll be sharing with you and kind of like the lens that remote has might be quite unique in the sense that we are playing within the HR tech space. So quite often we would have more product levers that we can pull internally as a TA team. But for me, the goal of this event and any type of webinars and community gatherings is to hopefully give you some inspiration and the direction rather than just offering some cookie cutter solutions. So I hope that you'll enjoy it. In the meantime, please don't hesitate to post your questions in the chat. And I know that we'll have some time at the end of the presentation to go through the most interesting and like spicy of those. So let's talk about the context that we are in right now. I would say that the hiring market today is more competitive than ever before. Something that is very interesting is that looking back at all the years that I've spent in the recruiting space, I've never heard TA professionals saying that it's easy to hire. So we are almost always either understaffed and stretched too thinly, or the market is crazy and we are in this constant war for talent. But I would say that something that we see changing in the environment that we are in is that the market is becoming global. And I would say that every employer, whenever they want this or they don't, becomes a global employer and a player of a global talent market. So companies are no longer competing with each other locally. So when you're looking for a software engineer to join your company, you're not playing against the same employers within the same city or even the same country, but now you're hunting for global talent, and definitely this competition is becoming harder than it was ever before. So when it comes to the global aspects of talent market, I would say that the trends that we are seeing on our side is that compensation packages are becoming more universal and globalized, which means that the candidates in the first place are not only looking at the cash side and the cash component of their total rewards packages, but they are comparing all the benefits and perks that are going into that. And quite often you would see your candidates comparing your company to the global players, which sometimes could be very hard to compete to and to keep up with. Another trend that we see on our side is that remote work has changed the way companies attract and retain talent. And for example, the traditional advantages of location, like, I don't know, like amazing coffee in the office or proximity to your headquarters or office perks, they're becoming less relevant, and it's harder to sell candidates on these advantages, not even speaking about the entire return to office debate that we are now exposed to. I would say that companies that fail to adapt to these new circumstances of the global competition are definitely losing out on best candidates and top talent that we are seeing on the market. And something that we should always keep in mind is that candidates are looking at us and evaluating us as their potential employers as much as employers are evaluating the candidates. And that's why the value of the candidate experience is constantly increasing, because in all these race for hiring the best talent and the changes with competitiveness of global compensation packages, candidate experience can be something that will help your company to stand out. And sometimes it's the biggest competitive advantage that you can create on the market for yourself. So let's dive a little bit deeper into remote history and who we are. So remote has been on the market for 6 years. We are fully remote from the first day when we were founded. And basically, when it comes to our product solution, we have an HR platform that enables companies to hire, manage, and pay people anywhere in the world. When it comes to our mission, we are really committed to spreading opportunities and connecting great people with great opportunities, no matter where they are. And I would say that this mission has become a guiding principle in our own recruiting strategy. So, as you can see on the slides, we are almost at 2,000 team members milestone. And something that is remarkable to mention here is that last year we doubled the company in size. And 3.5 years ago, when I joined, the company was only 200 people big. So in 3.5 years, we've gone through this 10x headcount growth. And I would say that definitely the talent acquisition team has something to do with that. But something that makes this experience even more remarkable for me is that we have team members in more than 80 countries, and our global workforce represents more than 90 nationalities. And when we think about the advantages that such a diverse workforce brings to the table, we believe that our company truly represents the customers that we are serving. And I would say that whenever we open a new role or whenever we think about shaping our hiring strategy, we always aim to tap into the locations where we might not have enough presence, or maybe even unlocking new countries on our own world map to make sure that we keep growing together with the business and we get some local expertise when we truly need it. And last but not least, we tend to get a lot of interest from the candidates. And I would say that we are definitely in a privileged position, and I'll talk a little bit about this later, but on average, we receive more than 30,000 inbound applications per month. This is more than a lot, thinking about the numbers that we have in terms of our headcount plan and how many people we've been hiring. So that's a big number to go through. And I would say that I will even call this a blessing in disguise for my own team. So going to the next slide, I would say that one of the most common questions that I get is, how did Remote build such a strong employer brand? Like, how did we land on these 30,000 applications on a monthly basis? And I would say that the answer that I have to this is not always the most desirable one, but actually we never set out to build an employer brand in a traditional sense. But when I think about our main pillars and kind of like what are the key uh, items that define our strategy in employer branding. So these are the ones that you can see on the slide. The first one is definitely authentic messaging. And I think that, to put it simply, our name speaks for itself. We are remote, and this company name alone carries the meaning behind that. It translates the mission that we have, it talks about the way we work, and it signals exactly what we stand for. We are global, we are flexible, and there are no boundaries when it comes to work. So our authenticity isn't something that we had to manufacture, something that we had to artificially create and link to kind of like our voice on the market, but it's part of our DNA. And I would say that it's embedded in who we are and how we work. And definitely when you think about the candidates who are looking for remote opportunities, it's very easy for them to land on our website and on our careers page, because going to remote.com and looking for career opportunities is almost a no-brainer for me. So definitely we see a lot of value from our own name, and like that's the benefit that is hard to deny. Together with that, I understand that it's unlikely that all of you will be able to go back to your company names and change it to bring a little bit more of excitement and attention from the market. But I would say that the second two pillars that you see on the slide is something that we all can do within our companies to really ensure that our brand is out there and that the voice of the company and the voice of the employer is authentic. So something that we've been working closely on as a team from the moment when we were founded is that we stay very close to our marketing team. And while we've never invested in an employer branding in the traditional sense, we were very deliberate about what is the content that our marketing team is putting out there. We partner together on the countless number of blog posts, events that the people team and the TA team and myself personally were contributing to make sure that we invest in the storytelling, and that our story as a company is a story of an employer that hires across the world and really evangelizes the remote work lifestyle. And then, last but not least, I would say that we have a significant leadership presence on social media. If you look at our C-suite, at some of the leaders of different teams, they have huge following, and I would say that they're very visible when it comes to the content that they produce in social media. And I can't tell you how many candidates came to us just because they saw our CEO speaking or like giving an interview. And I think that this is something that can really help drive excitement and once again like make your story sound natural and candid to the candidates. So when it comes to the leadership involvement, I think that sometimes candidates don't want to hear just from recruiters or sourcers. They really want to see and hear how the executive team and the leadership teams are embodying the company's values and how they think and what is the thought process behind the company that they've built. So that's why we're working a lot, once again, together with the marketing team on making sure that our leaders out there, they're visible, and that the potential talent and candidates have easy access to the way they think and to the way they talk about the company. So moving to the next slide, when it comes to these 30,000 applications that we are getting, I'm not sure whether my team is watching this webinar today, but I'm sure that they're not a big fans of me bragging about this number, because definitely that's a big challenge for the team and it's a heavy lift. And as I said, it's definitely a blessing, but also a challenge that we have to push through. So the way we think about all the inbound applications that we are getting is that we always try to bring some structure to the chaos that we are in. And when it comes to the way we organize applications on the back end, is that we are trying to enable grouping and filtering and basically putting all the applications into different buckets and almost stack ranking them on the back end to make sure that we can connect with the best talent in the quickest possible way. So something that we are constantly working and iterating on is our application process. For me, honestly, I believe that application forms could be a separate webinar topic on its own, because we've invested quite some time as employers into the application process and make sure that it is smooth, it's friendly, and we really avoid any dropouts. But at the same time, we see the reverse effect of it, of candidates applying to almost all the roles they see, really not spending too much time or as much time as we would wish them to spend on reading through the job descriptions, and also leveraging AI to tailor their CVs and applications to the needs of the job posts. So when it comes to our application process, we have quite a few questions that we always try to embed and also tailor for the role that we are looking for, that enable us to categorize these applications at the back end. With that, we are pretty big on auto rejection questions. So all of them are based on the application forms and the questions that we asked, but we have quite a few knockout questions. And I would say that for the talent acquisition team, it's a hard requirement to make sure that they're smart about the rules that they post, and that every job posting that goes out has some auto rejections embedded in it. Together with that, we want to make sure that we make the most out of our all remote hiring strategy. So we are focusing a lot on cost efficient hiring, and we are trying to shape the pools of candidates who are based in cost efficient locations to make sure that we prioritize them throughout our application review process, and with our goal to always hire the best candidate, no matter who they are and no matter where they're based. I would say that it really helped us to surface some amazing talent in the locations that are not typically considered to be well-known talent hubs. And definitely, I would say that all these things are helpful and amazing, but it's also true that none of them are potentially eye openers. I think that all the application questions, like all the rejection questions, etc., exist on the market for quite a while. We are using them for a reason, but there is definitely another layer that we can add to the application process that can bring more efficiencies. And that's the reason why we started working really closely with our internal product team. So, as Adrian shared at the beginning of this webinar, when it comes to our remote product offering, we basically cover the entire HR life cycle, and hiring is a big part of that. So, as part of our product roadmap, we developed our own solution, which is called Remote Recruit. And basically, it helps companies to identify best talent, find quick AI matches, get some talent insights into locations that they should prioritize when building their hiring strategies, and much more. So when we first started discussing building something within the talent space, it was vivid that the talent acquisition team, the internal talent acquisition team, should have a say in it. And from the get-go, all the TA team members has been very actively involved into developing the tool and sharing feedback on what's working well and what's not, with the guiding principle of us actually using and like dog fooding our own product. And I would say that when it comes to the current state of things, we recently launched our remote talent job board, and we're already seeing some internal hires coming from that. We've announced our sourcing solution, and the entire talent sourcing team is currently on it, testing, sharing the results, sharing feedback, and we are celebrating every win and every candidate that comes into our pipeline from our own product. But with that, I would say that an opportunity to work on building the product was definitely a very interesting experience for the talent acquisition team, because in the first place, it helped us to connect with our engineering teams, with our product teams, and get more exposure to the way they think about product development. And I would say that even I recognize that your companies might not be on the journey of developing your own recruiting solution. There are definitely some learnings that you can take out of this story, because you can always start small. And when we were working on developing our own tool, we actually came up with so many ideas that are not necessarily applicable to the roadmap for the product that we are building for customers. But for example, we introduced an AI help bot in our hiring channels, which was very easy thing to implement, and it took us one day to sit down together with our internal IT team and configure that. But it has a really big impact, first of all, on our own workload, because the majority of questions that we're getting from our hiring teams are now addressed using like this AI algorithm. But together with that, we are finding a lot of insights. And the more we talk with the product and engineering teams, the more educated we become as a TA org, and the more ideas and creative thinking we get out of that. So what's there on our roadmap? And I would say that the things that you see on the slide apply both to our external products, so remote recruit product, but also the things that we are prioritizing internally. So definitely AI is on top of mind for me and for all the team members within the TA team. We are really thinking about AI in the first place as an opportunity for us to reduce bias in hiring and get exposed to the candidates that we wouldn't find on our own, or maybe like finding some hidden gems that could be really, really hard to discover without the help of technology. We really think about AI as a way for us to bring more efficiency and just simply work smarter. And then another big impact area that we've identified is enhancing our candidate experience, because as we discussed at the beginning, we do believe that the candidate experience you provide is actually the biggest selling advantage that you can have as an employer. And this is truly something that can help you close the offers that you're extending. So when it comes to reducing human bias, I would say that something that we feel very strongly about is that we don't want to outsource any hiring decisions to an AI algorithm, and we definitely want to keep this human touch in the interactions that we have with the candidates. But the way we see AI is a real helper and enabler for recruiters to make quick decisions and connect with the best talent as quickly as possible. So, thinking about everything that we've done on the tooling side and all the investments that we made in our own tech stack, I would say that if I look back at the past 12 months, for me, 2024 was definitely a year of strategic investments in our TA ecosystem. We had to prioritize ruthlessly. We spent hours on different demos and pilots with external vendors, not even mention all the time we've spent with our internal product team on actually building the product that we want to use and that we feel proud of. So when it comes to some biggest changes that we introduced and that we believe would help any other TA team is that we made a few investments in automation tools. So first of all, we introduced a new scheduling solution. And I would say that looking back at the implementation process, that was a very interesting learning for our team because we tried out two vendors in 1 year. And unfortunately, with the first vendor that we were trying to adopt and implement the solution, we had to pull back because we realized that it wasn't addressing all the needs that we had as a company and as a team. And I would say that even though it might come across as a failure, for me, that was definitely a very interesting learning experience in the sense that only after going through this very painful and very time and effort consuming implementation, we actually realized what are the kind of like nitty gritty nuances that a scheduling tool needs to have to satisfy our needs and to really give us a solution that is scalable and not just a bunch of workarounds. So when we went into the second round of scheduling tools, reviews, and implementation, I would say that the level of confidence of the decision that we made was way higher. And we are happy with the scheduling solution that we have right now. So, as I said, like very interesting, I would say, learning opportunity, but this has resulted in a lot of efficiency gains for the team. Another big implementation that we went through last year is that we introduced AI note-taking tools. So we're using Bright Hire. You can read these in our handbook, on our careers page. So that's public knowledge. But I would say that when it comes to this tool implementation, it was pivotal for the quality of the insights that we are getting as a TA team. It has significantly reduced the time spent by recruiters on filling out scorecards. But something that is even more important for me personally is that actually now recruiters can say that they have the time to focus on the conversation with the candidates, really listening to them and asking questions that matter rather than just sitting on the call robotically note taking. So these implementation experience has been extremely positive for us. And at the end of the year, we decided to roll out this AI note-taking tool for the entire company. And I would say that the positive feedback that we've been getting has been almost overwhelming. And something that we are starting to see right now is that because we have a unified way of documenting feedback on every interview that takes place within the company, there are very interesting insights that we can get out of that, starting from simple things of whether all the interviews start on time and going all the way into what type of questions we ask, whether there are any biases that we are seeing in our hiring process. So, for example, whether we ask female candidates more questions than we would typically ask male candidates. We don't, which is good to know. But a lot of insights and a lot of data that we started gathering then enable us to inform our hiring decisions and really make changes in our hiring process that contribute to a better experience both for the hiring teams and for the candidates. And when it comes to the transformation that the talent acquisition team is going through, I would say that innovation is one of our values as a company. And this is something that defines our strategy for the team. So we definitely want to spend this year on deep diving into our processes, understanding what is the most time consuming parts of the hiring process, what are the most daunting and like manual parts, and really trying to do more with less. And when I say this, I'm not talking about the actual resources of the talent acquisition team, but rather investing in automation and technology. And like whenever we're stuck with something, we always start with the question of which tool or which solution can help us solve that. And I spent quite a lot of time with our engineering team coming up to them with some random crazy ideas and just trying to understand whether what we want to achieve is even technically plausible. And I would say that we've seen a lot of great outcomes coming from these conversations. And thinking about the key takeaways before we go to the Q&A session. So what would be my encouragement for all of you today? So first of all, think about beyond your job posts and make sure that whatever the message is going out there through the job postings, through the messages that your leaders are sharing on social media, through the content that the marketing team is creating, make sure that the story that you're trying to tell is authentic and that this is something that candidates will actually believe in, because this is exactly what creates this buy-in and then creates excitement around your employer brand that results in the interest that you're getting from the market. Another one that I think that all the speakers have spent some time on talking and preaching to, make sure that you get yourself comfortable with technology and that you leverage automation and you use AI as much as you can. I would say that for me, AI is almost like a buzzword, like especially in recruiting, we see new startups emerging almost every day talking about the way they would apply AI to hiring and make our lives way better. And that's an amazing time to be in. And I think that something that we should all be responsible for is staying up to date with the market. And it's actually really helpful sometimes to spend your time on a demo with a new tool just to understand what's being developed and whether this is something that is applicable for your company, for your hiring process. And even if it's not something that you can implement straight away, I think that there are a lot of inspirational moments and insights that you can bring back to your own internal tech teams and maybe start making small steps towards some big innovative projects. And then the last one is make sure that you always measure all the experiments that you have and you iterate constantly on what you have in place. I would say that when I think about innovation within the HR tech space, I can say that that's the industry or the area that is famous for being the most innovative one. And I think that part of experimenting and iterating is normalizing failures. And this is something that we're talking a lot about internally to be able to drive changes, to make some meaningful, impactful iterations. You should be ready that not all of your experiments will be successful. And sometimes you would need to roll back and maybe rethink everything that you thought was the right move and the right decision back in the days. And this is fine. And I think that even the definition of failure should be changing in our heads. This is a big reflection point for myself because I would say that I always struggle with a question about what are my biggest failures, because I think we have plenty of them. And even thinking about the scheduling solution that we tried to implement that didn't work out, that was a good learning curve and a very nice iteration point. But I would never think about this as a real failure because the insights and the learnings that we got out of that for me were way more valuable than the actual time and efforts that we spent on that, even though it didn't go unnoticed. But I think that the learning and the strength that it brought to the team was way more impactful. So I think we are done with the main slides. I have one more for you before we enter the Q&A session. So if you're interested in getting a demo of remote platform, please answer the survey question in the chat. I believe we also have a QR code that you can use to book a demo. And I think that's it on my side. And we can go to the questions and hopefully answers to those.
Hey, Anastasia. I honestly, these webinars are my favorite because I'm just learning so much and just taking notes. Thank you so much. This is great. We got a couple questions in the chat, including some questions that I posted. And first of all, Aaron and Steve, always loyal followers. Always great to have the two of you in the chat, and Nelly, of course, as well. So Nelly asked, how do you handle the volume of 30,000 applicants, right? I think you've kind of like answered the question. At what point after the questionnaire, like what does the funnel kind of roughly look like when people actually start to talk to people? Is there still quite a bit of waste, or like what's your take?
Yeah, I would say that kind of like if you look at our conversion funnel, so the conversion rates of this like 30,000 applications is very, very low. So just to give you a rough idea, in the point of time, we are hiring around like for 100 roles. So you can imagine that physically we just don't have enough time to almost like go back to every candidate, even though it's our commitment that every candidate that applies to remote will hear back from us. quite often that would be a rejection, but I would say that the conversion rate for these like 30,000 is kind of like is less than 1%. So we are really, really picky. And I would say that when it comes to the way we are dealing with the volume, so application forms help us a lot. And when you go through kind of like the application form, sometimes it's not obvious, but every question that we ask has a reason of why we're asking that. And on the back end, it helps us to source through applications, put them into different buckets. But definitely something that we are thinking about right now is how we can use AI for stack ranking. So really bringing the best matches to the role as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Is that something that you're currently looking at in terms of external tools to bring that in? Is that something that you would consider developing yourself? What's your take?
I could say both. Like
Yeah.
we are open to whatever works best for the team.
Yeah. Interesting. And this is also like from my angle, right? Because we have ongoing discussions around developing tools ourselves versus going externally in the market. You've developed some tools yourself, but also you work with external tools. Can you share a little bit more in terms of what the trade-off is between developing something
Yeah.
yourself and when you go external?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that we had to go through some back and forth, first of all, with our internal product team, because when it comes to our current product, for example, we offer ATS to our customers, which is amazing and serve for the majority of our customers' needs. At the same time, we still use an external ATS internally.
Yeah.
And the main reason for that is the ICP that we are targeting. So when it comes to the scale that we are going through internally as a company and thinking about the volume of the candidates that we need to filter through, I would say that we are in a pretty unique position as an employer if you think about kind of like the startup tech space. And that's why after sitting down with the product team and kind of like looking at kind of like our non-negotiables and the things that we need to see, not even like to enhance our process, but to keep the team up and running and make sure that we maintain the same level of service, we realized that for now, ATS is actually not the biggest priority for the team. We really want to invest into some top-notch things like AI, filtering, and etc., while kind of like the ATS theme almost lives in parallel with what we do right now.
And then in line with that, one of the questions from, I think, Aaron asked if you would make your internal screening tools potentially available to the external market.
I would say if we're successful, like there is nothing to hide, and we already have remote recruit package available for the customers. And I think that there is a demo that everyone can subscribe to, even if you're not a customer of remote. But definitely before we launch anything in the recruiting space, my team is the one who goes through alpha, beta, and all other letters of testing. So yeah, we have our own vetted interest in it.
Yeah. Nelly asked, did you face any resistance while introducing automation AI into the recruitment processes? And if so, how did you deal with the resistance?
That's a great question. To be honest, I can't say that I've seen any resistance. What I would say I am very conscious of, and something that I'm working on with the team, is that introducing a tool or like an AI solution is one thing. Another thing is adoption of the tool and making sure that you actually use it and you build this in your recruiters, sourcers, whomever day-to-day routine. So when it comes to the tools that I shared today and kind of like all the implementations that we went through, those were very smooth and welcomed by the team. And I think that this tells a lot about the way I've built the team and the individuals that are there. But something that we are working on right now, and we have dedicated project teams within the TA team, is that we sit down with these vendors and we go through every feature and functionality, and we start with a checklist. Okay, so we actually have this available. Are we using this internally? If not, what is our strategy? Do we believe that it's actually helpful? Like, do we want to use it? And if yes, what would be the training resources, enablement resources that we can give back to the TA team so people actually start using them? Because you can build endless dashboards, introduce all the amazing tools that we have, but if no one uses, like, there is no
there's no
value in
point.
having them.
Yeah,
exactly.
Rhoda asks, also talking about tool, why did you go for different scheduling tools? Doesn't your ATS have scheduling options?
I don't know, like whether it's a question for me or for our ATS vendor. I know that our ATS is working on actually like building like a scheduling solution, but I would say that when it comes to our scheduling needs, those are pretty complex because we really want to tailor our hiring process to different needs of different teams, and sometimes we have to deal with very complex panel scheduling, and then you also put a global scheduling layer of complexity there. So we're dealing with interviewers in different time zones. So it was really obvious that the current ATS scheduling solution is just not serving for the needs that we have. And then we had to look for external vendors, and we managed to do this only from the second attempt, but
and because it's interesting, right? It's always with new technology. We've went through 3 different ATSs before we landed on our 4th ATS within a year. So like demos, or like you get this feeling like this looks great, it's going to work, and then already with one ATS in the first week of implementation, you realize, oh wow, we can't change pipelines, and we can't use this particular ATS. And luckily they were very understandable, like, well, then we're not the right ATS, right? And so we went through that. Now, having that experience of trying one scheduling tool that unfortunately wasn't the right fit, and then the second one, by the sounds of it, is what have you learned that you would now do differently if you would bring in an external tool or vendor?
Yeah, I think that when we started the first implementation and even looking at the tools, I would say that kind of like the vendor assessment team was heavily represented by the talent ops team, which is amazing. But if you limit this to one function within the TA team, you might be limiting the perspectives that that are coming into this assessment. So I think that one of the first learnings that we gained out of this unsuccessful implementation is that we want every function, so sourcing, recruiters, and talent ops, to sit on these vendor calls and to ask questions, because we want everyone to be on board with the solution that we are getting, especially after the team was traumatized, I would say, after the first implementation. So that was a big learning. And I think that, honestly, when we were going through this very painful implementation process, we actually came up with quite a lot of must-haves and non-negotiables that we were not fully aware of. So when we were walking into kind of like the second round of implementation, we were way more prepared.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Anastasia, switching gears a little bit. So you mentioned, hey, you're a fully remote company, right? You hire across the globe, and you're looking for cost efficiencies and to hire talent where maybe others not necessarily would be able to hire talent or would be willing to hire talent. How do you balance cost, quality, and how do you also do look at salary levels? Like what's your strategy there?
Yeah. So the easiest one would be quality. We never compromise on quality. So our kind of like our policy, I would say that it's kind of like it's almost written like in black and white. We want to hire the best candidate, no matter where they're based, no matter what sort of demographics groups they belong to. In the meantime, something that we are very intentional about is making sure that we have representation in our hiring funnels. And this is related to cost efficient locations. This is related to some of the demographics groups. We want to make sure that in every pipeline at certain stages of the hiring funnel. So let's say like screening stage, hiring manager stage, team interview stage, we have a diverse pool of candidates. So whatever the finalist we end up with, we can feel confident that this is actually the best candidate, but we also looked at a diverse group. So when it comes to the question about compensation philosophy, because I believe it was part of that.
Yeah.
So the way we build our salary bands, so our compensation philosophy is tied to location. So we're using different geographies that define your compensation in a certain location, and we do this at a country level. So definitely compensation in, I don't know, like South Africa will be different from compensation in the Bay Area in the States. So that's our approach.
Okay, that makes sense. Being fully remote and having this mix. One, how do you ensure? Let's talk about your team, right? Like, how do you ensure that your team feels connected with each other if they work in so many different time zones? That's one. And two, also, how do you decide who works on what in terms of roles if the world is your oyster? Those are kind of like two questions, but yeah.
Yeah. So let me start with the second one. So when it comes to alignment, I would say that it's pretty straightforward. So all the recruiters are aligned to support specific areas of the business. So we never divide recruiters by the time zones they're in. Sometimes we might see a recruiter asking, let's say, someone who's based in APAC might ask someone from the Americas time zone to take a screening call if they really struggle to find the time with the candidate. But I would say that all the recruiters are subject matter experts in the business areas that they support, and this is how we think about our alignment. And then for the majority of roles, we never know where we will end up hiring a candidate, so there is no sense in having kind of like a recruiter tied to location. And the second question about connecting the team and really like building these bonds, I would say that for me, communication in the all remote setting always comes with intentionality and also leading by example. So we have quite a lot of live kind of like touch points with the team. We have our bi-weekly calls. We are rotating the schedule to make sure that we accommodate for different time zones. We have our monthly social time chats when we just jump on a call and we discuss random things, no agenda. We also have an async stand-up bot that that is kind of like posting in the team channel every Friday, and it's very simple. We talk about like one highlight, one challenge, but for me the most important and like the most interesting question is like just personal random sharing. And I would say that it's really like it helps to get to know each other and like what everyone is dealing with. And for me and for my leadership team, we kind of like we keep ourselves accountable for being there. So we don't only expect team members to go and share and be present, but we invest our time in like sharing and really kind of like setting the tone of conversations. And I think that like that's seen and valued within the team.
Love it. Anastasia, we're close to the hour. This is such an insightful presentation. Really, thank you so much for sharing openly on the incredible growth, but how you build it, how you do it, and the intention that goes behind it. Anastasia, is the best way for people to connect with you over LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, yeah, I would say so.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. I want to thank you, but I also want to thank the whole team of Remote for making this webinar possible, and many of our future events that are happening. I saw Marguerite in the chat. Very grateful for her. If you're interested to learn more about Remote, there is a link in the chat. Please fill in the form, and you can scan it here as well. But definitely check out their website, their marketplace, and also all the knowledge that's there. That they openly share, and I can share from personal experience. It's an absolute treasure trove with knowledge. Thank you, Anastasia.
Thank you.